Super. Let's get started. So today, what I'll try to cover, Chetra has also joined us with us. And the reason as I said
Yeah.
before, I'm requesting Adarsh and Chetra also to be with us so that we have a larger team that's able to support you as we go forward in any questions and things like that you would have. They will also be able to help you with reinforcement training and everything else. Now, what we will do today, we'll try to focus on accounting. We will go gradually, step by step, so that we're able to keep pace with it. We will first start with supplier invoice booking, right? We will start with a simpler case of a very simple invoice booking, like you're booking an expense against, let's say, services. It could be electricity bill. It could be, for example, a Foursquare invoice and things like that, where it's very simple. You're actually creating accounts payable and debiting an expense line, and that is it, right? It's a fairly simple setup. Then we'll try to increase the pace a little bit, where we will try to do that against a purchase order so that we're able to see the costing of it and we're able to see how perpetual inventory is accounted for. And then we will look into costing, how the costing is building up, how the accounting will happen. Very important as well, because as I said before, we will configure for perpetual inventory accounting, right? So that's how I will start. I'll use a spreadsheet in parallel as well, so that it's easier for us to track it. We'll be much more efficient. If not, we'll keep forgetting what the numbers we're putting in, and it will be difficult for us to match as we go, right? So what I'll do is I'll share my screen. I'll bring up another window that has an Excel sheet as well. Okay. So let me know, please do let me know once you're able to see my screen, all right? You're able to see my screen, are you?
Not yet.
You should see an Odoo screen at this time.
We're good. We can see it now.
You're able to see an Odoo screen, right? Okay. So what we will do is we'll focus today on accounting, as I said. So accounting, everything in your accounting app. Now, you will notice in Odoo as we go forward that you can almost do everything in the same screen, right? Or almost just that's the reason they've done it like that, is it could be a very simple setup as well. It's kind of built for companies who are very small. They have only one person doing everything, so you don't want to log into multiple places and try to do the same thing. You can do everything in the same window, similar to what I think I saw in Sage 200. Or you could have a larger setup where there is segregation of duties. So you want to log in through multiple places because multiple people are doing it. So therefore it's like that, but we will manage that. So what I'll do is I will log into the accounting app that hopefully you are able to see. I've just clicked on the accounting app, which is like a module, and we will see that. It is still loading. In your production, when we use, you would probably realize that the production system will always be much faster than your staging. That's how Odoo does it, because it's running on a test servers, but production will be a little bit faster. Now, accounting, we'll run through some basics now, as we say, right? We'll first look at, you will find in your configuration, you will find some settings and chart of accounts and things like that. I'll focus on one major area, chart of accounts and payment terms, and then we will deep dive into what we have to do. Now, first thing is chart of accounts. In chart of accounts, you will see your chart of accounts is already configured. I just want to ensure that I'm in staging. Yes, I'm in staging environment. Okay. So that we're not mucking around with live. So you will see that the chart of accounts is there. You can see the chart of accounts is also, it shows you group by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which just shows you that it is the account number that is starting with. You will also see in the chart of accounts here that you have a code, you have an account name, you have a type. Type is actually prefixed within Odoo. They already give you a certain prefixes, prefix accounting types. You can customize it if you want to, but better to avoid it unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, you're also able to see that in account number, you can manage it, you can configure it across multiple companies. So what it means is that you can automatically set this particular account number is applicable in several companies as well. It gives you the advantage that several companies are operating within the same chart of account. It also gives you the advantage that you don't have to maintain a chart of accounts in every company. the chances that it getting inconsistent, you have account number here, account number there, and so on and so on, it reduces that complexity. It just makes it a little bit more easier. So you have various few other things. I'm just going to pick one account number here. We can just do this for any account number. As I said, you have a type, you have default taxes if this applicable, so we don't need to use it. You have a default currency as well. Since we're all operating on base currency, we're going to use that as a currency. And it has a certain group that we have created as well. You will see the group called as 110, property, plant, and equipment. You will see, Abhishek, those groups, we have defined it in line with the Excel sheet that you had given. So it's kind of structured around that as well. So that we have done too. Plus, we're also saying this particular account number is applicable for multiple companies. It also show you at the top side, always remember when you're looking at Odoo, there'll be what they call as breadcrumbs on the top, right? You will have a lot of these buttons that kind of helps you to drill down to what it is there. So they can move from a master into a transaction and come back and so on and so on. So you will see something called as a balance, that it has a balance of 0 for this time. You would also notice important so that you don't get confused when you're working with Odoo, because I was also confused in my early days with the Odoo. Not that I'm an expert yet, but and so on. You'll see it always shows you 1/80. So sometimes you might find, why cannot not see this account number at all when you're exporting it to Excel and so on? That's because it's only showing you the first 80 lines. And the next, if you go here, it shows from and so on and so on. So always remember that sometimes it can spread across into multiple pages. Okay. Also, you can navigate from one account number to account number by just using this button everywhere. And this concept applies not only in account number, it just universally applies everywhere. Now, on chart of accounts, you can also go to chart of accounts here, and you can do a few other things, such as you can export your chart of accounts and so on. You can group it and things like that. That's general navigation. We will get familiar when we're going through it. I will go into another area which is important, which is around currencies. Okay. Now, currencies is set up already. Odoo kind of brings up all these default currencies on its own. It also follows on its own. It's pre-configured. It has its own. It uses the ISO standard for currencies. It also has a certain prefix as well. So for now, you will see Mauritian rupee is activated. You don't see the last updated date because that is already set as your base currency. So there's nothing to update against it. But we have activated, in your case, euro and US dollar. You can activate any other particular currency as well by switching it on, right? Let's say, for example, you would say United Arab Emirates dirhams, and you can update the exchange rates against it. So as to not to complicate this, I will just keep this here, and we will operate with euro and US dollar. You will also see the last updated date. So what it means is when you're entering a currency, you can, now I'm picking up a currency, you can also add a line, right? When you add a line here, what does it mean? I'm saying, okay, the exchange rate as of today is this. I'm just defaulting the same exchange rate here. It's 0.022. So which means that all the time when you're entering a transaction, it will check what is the date of this transaction and in which interval does it fall. If the transaction, for example, was made on 24th of May, right? Then it checks what is the exchange rate applicable between the 1st and the 24th happens to be between 1st of May and the 27th of May, right? It will take this particular exchange rate and apply to that particular transaction. Anything, whenever you do a transaction, when it will always compare the last date, let us say the latest, let's say we are doing something today, or we don't update these exchange rates and tomorrow, it will always take the last update date, whichever is applicable, it will take that particular date, unless it has a previous interval, right? It also means that you can add a line. When you say add a line, you can see that it is starting per date. What you cannot do, therefore, the limitation is that you cannot apply several exchange rates on the same day. You cannot apply an intraday exchange rate. That's something that you must be aware, right? Which I think several systems don't support as well. I think it's going to get hyper complicated if you're trying to do that. So I think this could be fair enough. So that you can only apply one exchange rate per day, right? That's the concept here. If you want to delete any exchange rate, you can just click on this delete and it will go away. In this particular case, we're applying an exchange rate of 0.022. Similarly, if you take the other exchange rate that you have, let's say, euro, right? The euro is 0.019. I just looked that up at Google some days ago and updated it. You can always enter your exchange rate. Exchange is very crucial, especially you remember when we were running the sales transaction the other day, you saw that the sales value for a foreign currency was coming up wrongly. That was because exchange rate was not applied. It will apply that particular exchange rate as of that particular date and bring it together. So there are two concepts that we need to know. Third one is, I'll quickly run through, is around, let's do payment terms. Okay.
Yeah, I just got a question.
Uh-huh.
When you say your exchange rate, can you just go back to the exchange rate, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
It's
Let me pick up dollar. Yeah.
Can you,
Mhm.
yeah, USD. So we get our exchange rate in terms of rupees. So we put the amount in rupees and it will convert it into dollars there, or we put it into dollars for it to convert it to rupees.
Correct. You can do it either way. It will figure it out, right? You can do it either way. It will figure out one or the other, right? If you put your unit per, you actually put your unit per Mauritian rupee outside 0.022, it will translate itself into 45.
I can do the other way around as well. I can put in Mauritian rupees
Yeah.
and it'll convert back into dollars.
Correct. If you've done it, it'll you can update it, it'll reverse calculate it the other way.
Yeah. Up to how many decimals can it?
It's taking up to it's taking up to 10 decimals. You see, it's 0.454545454 or something like this, right? It takes up to a reasonable number.
Okay, no problem.
Right? So I'm going to delete this line. So I'm going to have this. Now let's go to payment terms. It's important for us to know from an accounting perspective. Yes, let's go to where's the payment terms? Okay. Now in payment terms, right? Payment terms is actually quite for Odoo's size, and I think it's fairly good capability they have got. Let's pick something called as N180, right? What it means is that you take a certain payment term, right? You can say it is due 100% on a certain date, right? And that is 180 days from the date of invoice. You can also do several other things as well. You can say it's due only 50% now. 50% now is done, 50% is later. You can do those kind of things as well, which is quite cool, right? Because several systems just support one time and then you're stuck. If you are to structure a payment term with a supplier to say, okay, 20% now, 30% after 15 days, another 30% after 45 days, another 10% later, I think you have that ability, you'll be able to do so. Yes, Abhishek? Yeah.
What happens if you want to have a fixed amount every week?
Fixed amount every week. Let's try. I don't know. I will just try it, right? Right. Okay. Let's do a payment term. Let's say fixed week, something like this, right? I'll just call it something like this. And while we're doing this, we'll also walk through a few other things. You can also set up early discount. When you say early discount on a payment term, is that if a customer pays early, you can grant him a discount. Same thing. If you are paying early to a supplier, and if that's how it's negotiated, you can claim an early discount as well. Yeah, of course, assuming that that's how it's agreed with the suppliers. So let's take this. So we'll say early discount. Now due date is due. Let's say it's you're saying every week. Is that so? Every week means every week. If you take, then let's calculate. Let me do a calculator. So if it's every week, let's say 100 divided by
25.
Why did you say 25, Prakash? Just
Because 25 times 4, 25%. For example,
4 weeks.
So you mean it's totally in 4 weeks, is it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say that that's the case. You say 25 due from 7 days.
7 days after the invoice date.
After the invoice date, then you can say add a line 25% due on 14 days. Then you can say 25% due on 21 days. And then you can say 25% due on 28 days, right? That's what you mean. Yeah, something like that, right? And it shows you now, if you take an example, it's showing you this is how it's going to get split up into your aging and aging reports and so on the right side. So it's fairly decent functionality, I think, for what they have got, right? I'm just going to save this here. It doesn't matter because it's in our staging. When we refresh live to staging, it will just get overridden. So tomorrow, if you don't see it, it's probably because if you want to include any payment terms as we speak today, always remember to upload it in live, not in staging, because we'll always keep taking copies from staging and overriding it, right? An easy way to know whether you're in staging or not is if you see this message saying database is neutralized, then we know you're actually in staging so that we're not confused and doing it in the wrong place. Yes, Abhishek?
How do you allocate the payment to different companies? Because I can see here you've put it as Mopirove. Can the same policy be applied for different companies?
Same policy can be applied in different companies. To be honest, I think so. I will just get it reconfirmed, right? But we can check it. Let's do a simple check. Okay, I'm making a note, Abhishek, so that I don't forget. Apply PT in all companies. How, right? But let's do one simple check. Let's say we have this saved. Let's go to some other company. Yeah, when I'm adding here, it's available there as well. Right. So you remember I added that and it's available here as well. Right. So the payment terms, when you add them up, it will be available in all the other companies.
It comes by default, then, is it?
Sorry, Abhishek?
You don't select it anywhere. It comes by default whenever you create a new payment term, is it? It applies to all the companies by default when you create a new one. Is that how it works?
Correct. It applies by default by all the companies. I suppose, right? There is a flag somewhere to identify saying don't apply to all specific companies, right? Then it will take that away, right? Now, what I'll do is I will switch back to Mopirove so that we don't get ourselves confused and do so. So we talked about payment terms. There's one specific payment term that we have customized as well, which I think it is this. I think it's 10 days, I think, right? No.
I think it's the EOM 10.
EOM 10, is it? I'm all the time. Last time I asked this, I'm all the time. My memory is failing me, and this is the one that's end of May. End of May, 10 months is always available by default. That wouldn't be the customer. I will come back to you. I'll come back to you on the one that we have customized.
Awesome.
I think it's.
I just
I think it's yours.
When you open this this payment term, what is the previous payment term? There was a mention of Mopirove there, but on the previous one, can you see that it says company there?
It says they're not the applicable company, correct?
No.
The reason why that's not applicable in all those companies is that we've already, when you uploaded it, we already said applies only to this particular company.
No.
The reason why it's.
Can you just open the field? I think that its option is there. It's, yeah, you can notice it. Can you just open the fixed week? The fixed week.
Oh, sorry, open the fixed week. Yeah.
The last one, yeah. Can you see company just below fixed week there? The company selection is there. That's the field you can select there.
Oh, sorry, this is the one that I was missing. Sorry, I was wondering why is it. Yeah, this is the one I was missing. So once you start to select all these other companies, it will start to appear everywhere else. Okay, I also noted it down that there's a mistake in our existing configuration because it's applicable only on Mopirove. We need to extend it to all other companies as well. That I will do so.
And if you leave it blank, it applies to all companies then. Is that how
Correct.
it works?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, then what we will do is after this, we will also, what we have tried to do is we will also try to stick with standard as much as we can. We're also trying to leverage journals, right? That we are using standard journals that Odoo has got. Odoo has got standard journals for inventory valuation, customer invoices, vendor bills, and it's expecting that you have a separate journal for each bank account so that you're able to do so. So that is actually configured too. And then it has some specific journals for exchange differences, depreciation, revaluation, and so on and so on. You will see that applying when we're actually performing these transactions. So every transaction that goes into the GL goes with a journal code. The other thing that you have to remember is that whenever in Odoo, which I think I like it, there's an advantage. Whenever you post a transaction, whether it be it subledger, whether it being inventory, whether it be it a supplier invoice, it posts an entry into the GL almost instantly. Right, so that everything is transaction by transaction by transaction is available in the GL. which is actually a good thing. It actually reduces the need for reconciliation and subledger GL going off, and those kind of problems significantly reduced because it seems to have that kind of a functionality. Couple of things are also there that we are not configuring here, is but for you to know, is it can do multiple ledger. A multiple ledger concept is that you can, I do not know how much it applies in Mauritius. You could have the same books of accounts. You want it in Mauritian rupee. You want it also in US dollar. You also want it to be compliant with GAAP accounting because they want Jan to December. You're from April to March. Somebody is from October to September. They're having different set of accounts and so on. You can do multiple ledger as well. So whenever that starts to become applicable for you, you have that capability to extend it. For now, we've not activated it. We will just leave it alone. So this is the basics that I want to start with. Now, what we will do is in accounting, configuration leaving aside. Now, if within the accounting function, you can do a few things. On the customers, you can see, you can look at invoices, credit notes, payments, and you can also go to the customer master. Similarly, on the vendors, you can go bills, receipts, batch payments, employee expenses, and you can also manage the product inventory master from here. Which means from an accounting standpoint, if you're the controller and you want to administer the entire key things, let's just master data across procurement, across inventory, across this, you can manage within the same app and you don't have to keep flipping from here to inventory and there to here. You can manage within that as well, right? And here you have almost everything with respect to journal entries, making journal items, transfers, and locking of dates and reconciling and so on. And plus you have access to these reports as well here, right? We will run through each of them separately. Important thing on top of these reports that you must know is there is also an app called as, what's it called? It's called, I think, there's also an app called as Dashboards, okay? This is a default app within this thing. It also provides you certain standard prefix dashboards beyond your reporting within the respective modules. For example, let's talk, I know we've been going through sales yesterday. It has certain dashboards for sales, right? It has some filters on top. What's the last 90 days, which country, which product. It also has some top quotations whom we have made, top sales orders, right? These are all the ones that we've been playing around yesterday and the day before, and top countries and top products and so on. It has it by the respective modules as well, on accounting, on invoicing, and so on. So on top of the reporting that you will have within the respective modules, you can also come back and look at it. This is on top of Abhishek. I know for Prakash and Jigna, we probably not spoken about it yet. Diana will come on top of it, right? That is more natural language and ChatGPT kind of situation. Odoo doesn't have that kind of a capability.
It's still unknown to them. I haven't spoken to Diana about to them yet.
Correct. That's going to come on top of it. So these are all mostly Odoo's dashboards and things like that are more looking historically. They're more present as is, but a lot more conveniently based. So I'll switch back to, without digressing, I'll switch back to where we are.
Sri,
so what?
There's something you mentioned on the configuration there for the period. So for each period, accounting period, do we have to manually open it before we put transactions, or by default it opens, or it says lock? How does that work?
By default, it will be open. What you would have to do end of each month, when you do your month close, you can go and lock the dates. You can close it. So therefore, there are no transactions happening into the previous month.
Okay. And for the following year, for the next financial year, it automatically generates a period, or we've got to manually generate it? How does that work?
It automatically generates the next financial period.
Okay.
Now, what we will do is with this, I will switch into now vendors, right? We'll get into accounts payable as a function, right? Now we spoke about vendor master, but I'll kind of quickly brush through the vendor master very quickly again as well. It's the same thing. You have the Kanban view or you have a list view. We can select any view for that matter. Let's select AC hardware. That's been my favorite in all my testing. I've always been selecting this. So when all the time, you would also see there's something called as an individual and a company. Our default position is always a company, right? That's what we will take. It has the address. It has a tax ID. That's something that you will have to keep entering as well. It's important that you are able to, tax ID here means your VAT registration number of the particular vendor.
What's the difference? One is without VAT, VAT, BRN, and all of that details. That's an individual, is it?
No. Here, individual Individual means is that, right? You could have employees acting as they have Odoo. The concept is like a partner. Everybody is a partner. It could be an individual, it could be a company, right? Like for example, in a sales process, you're initiating a sales process. Let's say your first contact is a person, right? He's an individual working in a company, right? So therefore, you create him as an individual. That's an initial contact, and thereafter you associate that individual with a company. For example, let's take it's my case, right? Now, Shri is an individual, is an individual associated with Foursquare, right? Then you have Foursquare as a company. So when you're registering as a company, you would register Foursquare as a company. Then you would say Shri is an individual associated with Foursquare. So therefore, you're able to maintain and manage multiple people within a company. The reason that becomes important is, right, is when you're wanting to have email communications with people, right? Now, whom do you communicate to? There are multiple people within the same customer or the same vendor, right? So multiple people, multiple purposes as well. So whom do you communicate to? And what is their purpose and what is their role? It helps you manage that. And that's the logic behind what it's going. I think it's a little clever, right? By doing so.
Okay.
So on the vendor master, therefore, you can maintain your tax IDs of this particular vendor, right? You can maintain your tax IDs here, phone number, what the email number and things like that, their website and their customer category is something that you maintain at the vendor level. Now I'm going to save it. Then you can have, and here you see, once you have this, you can add individual contacts against the particular vendor. In this particular, say, you can say for this particular vendor, you have, this is the contact, this is the invoice address, delivery address, follow-up address, and etc. etc. Go ahead, Abhishek.
We've got a legal requirement to have the BRN, is business registration number, the VAT number. Where do we enter which of those fields where? If tax ID is VAT ID, I would understand. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. Tax ID is your VAT ID.
Business registration number, then where would we enter that?
Tax ID is a business registration ID number. Then you have a customer address and category. Let's see, we have more fields.
The tax ID is the VAT number, no?
Correct. The tax ID is your VAT number, so that is based on a country format. And if you put a slash against it, which means that particular vendor is not subject to tax. Now, contacts and addresses, let's come down to that. It won't be in sales and purchase. Company ID, fiscal sales supplier code, company website.
Here,
You have a company. There's a company ID, right? There's a registry number of the particular company. Is it from a different tax ID? It should be unique across the same company, right? You have the registration number of the particular customer here. You could also go down to accounting. Here you're talking about account numbers and receivable and payable accounts. Then you have internal notes. So essentially, and you have a partner assignment. So here you can also have geotagging and things like that if that becomes relevant at some point of time. So on here for your company registration, so you provide that here under company ID, right? And you can also do tagging by industry and things like that for sales purposes or marketing purposes. So essentially, this is what you do. Under salesperson, you can also assign a default. Of course, we're talking about vendor. You can also assign a default buyer so that you can have some kind of a buyer assignment that this buyer deals with this vendors and so on and so on. You can also set up default payment terms. This is something that you probably don't have. We'll have to set up default payment terms against these vendors. Let's say this is N10 and so on. You can also set up default currencies so that it always applies to that particular currency. Important to set up import and export so that taxes applicable will automatically be taken care of. That is to say, how we have configured it is if you apply the fiscal position, right? Based on the fiscal position of a vendor, automatically tax applicability will be taken care of. If you say domestic, VAT will apply. If you say export, VAT will not apply. If that particular vendor, if you manage that, it just saves you a lot of clicking and removing it when you're actually entering an order.
Three, if you say VAT applies to a company, shouldn't it apply to a product more like? Because the company can be selling both backable zero VAT product and 15% VAT. So it's more on the product instead of the company. So how
exactly, right? That's exactly how it works. You set up the VATs at the product level, you set up the VAT at the customer level. It will take a combination of it and apply, because it can also apply the other way, right? You could have an item that's VATable based on where you're buying from. If you're buying, for example, you have an item, the same item you sell domestically, VAT doesn't apply, but the same item you sell domestically, VAT applies. You export it, VAT doesn't apply. It's the same concept can come in as well. So it all the time takes a combination of what is set up in the product master and what is set up in the supplier or the customer master. It will take the super of it and then it'll apply in every transaction. And for manageability of it, easy manageability of it, you can simply apply a physical position. Thereafter, it will take care of it, right? Now, so this is what you do in the supplier master. And then we are talking about sales and purchase. We spoke about it, an accounting standpoint as well. Important ones is the receivable accounts and the payable accounts. That's our important setup. Then you can have some internal notes, right? Now, I will save this particular vendor, and then we will go into the vendor master. Let's pick up a few simple cases. Now we will take a simple case of a bill, right? A bill means you're entering a supplier invoice. That's what is a simple case of a bill. It's a very, very simple entry screen. Now, there's nothing complicated. You go to a bill and you say, okay, I'm going to register a bill against some guy, right? Let's pick this guy, right? AW Wong, right? You can say, what's the bill number? That's the vendor invoice number, INV 12449, some number like this, right? And what's the invoice date? They submitted the invoice as of last month. You're accounting it as of last which date? I'm accounting it as of this date, right? Is the repayment reference, estimate bank, and when is it due, right? It's automatically calculating some due date. The journal. Sorry,
what's different between bill date and accounting date? Why are different dates?
Bill date is, for example, right? I gave you an invoice 3 months ago, right? Somehow I'm giving you an invoice that is dated 3 months ago, but I'm suddenly giving it to you today, right? For some reason, right? You want what you're recording in your ERP to exactly match what the vendor has given you. So you will say, look, the invoice on the document, invoice date on the document as per the supplier is this, but we are only accounting it today. That means the book entry date in your journal, right? It will be accounted as of today, right?
So then the credit period starts from the day I accounted or from the bill date?
Credit period will start from your accounting date, I think, but we'll recheck it, right? We can do a few tests and we'll check it, right? And then it will automatically take that particular invoice date and add it to the due date, right? And then what you do is once it's here, you can do very simple things, right? You can come up to the product line, you can add a line and you can say, look, I simply want to type, right? This is against celebration, whatever. Just because I'm just going to type it as a text and I'm going to code it against an expense line. So hence I've picked up the most bizarre description that you can ever have. I'm saying some celebration expenses. If you go this way, then what you're doing is you're selecting the account number to be debited. Now let's select something. I hope we have some account number. Let's call it as miscellaneous, let's say. Okay, and I'm going to select some account number called employee miscellaneous costs here, right? I'm going to say prices, it costs us 11,880, right? Rupees, and that's what we want. If you want to add any, see. No, what did you want? Okay. And then we enter this, and then we enter a price, 11,880, let's say. And it already applies a VAT here, and you can say, okay. And that's all I have to do. And I would just say confirmed. The invoice is confirmed. I'm physically checking with the paper. Everything seems to match. This is an expense invoice they gave. And you can say confirm, right? Okay, in hopefully we will troubleshoot all this before we going live. But in case these things happen, we will troubleshoot this as well. I'm going to open a new window here. Now, what did it say? 211,000. Why is it bringing 211,000? It shouldn't bring up at all. So let's see wrong. No. So my account number is 23130. I'm going to save this here so that we don't have this issue again and again. So let's go back here to bills. Okay. That's a new. Some vendor, invoice number or something. I'm going to enter some number, right? Invoice date is this. They gave us an invoice date. We're accounting, let's say, on 16th. Okay. And
Shri, is it possible? I can see you putting ad hoc expense details.
correct.
We can put any ad hoc details, or we have to create the transaction listing first, or at least the description somewhere.
You can create any description and type it. The disadvantage of doing so, I'll come to the next combination and the next combination after we do this. The disadvantage of doing so is that I can be subject myself to a lot of errors because each and every time I have to think around what expense I'm putting. I could be doing it inconsistently. Today I'm putting it against this account number, tomorrow I'm putting it against some other account number, and I could be creating a lot of inconsistencies. So you're better off creating a predefined certain expense codes, let's say, right? Always, guys, for this particular type, just select this particular code that's already predefined to a certain account, expense account number, so that you're not sitting and doing this every time. And these, you can create this inconsistency, right? I will come to that particular combination as well. So 11,080, some number like this, okay? And it's calculated everything. And once I've got it all, I just have to say confirm, right? Now, luckily, it doesn't bring us any error because I've just sorted out in the customer, in the supplier master. So now it is done, right? Invoices booking is done, invoice is booked, and that is how simple as it is when you look at it. And it creates a vendor bill, it creates its own numbering logic and convention here. So our number is 050008. Now let's remember this number somewhere. I'm going to put this number somewhere in our sheet, let's say. Let's do this. I'm going to bring up a notepad here so it's all easy for us to maintain, right? I'm going to copy paste this number here, right? So that we can it's easy for us to check. Now what I'll do is I'll go back and we'll look at the journal entries, what it has created. Hopefully it should have created some journal entry for us, right? Now did I post it? So we'll go to journal entries. Supplier bill, supplier bill. This is the one that we put now? No, not this, right? So supplier bill, journal entries. So I've got this particular sub-journal entry. I can look at the journal entry here, right? It has created the journal entry for us. When I look at it, it should give me the debit and the credit as well, right? Against this particular account number where we have debited this account number. When I look at it in this particular example, we have credited accounts payable of tax 123. You have debited employee expense. It automatically takes the VAT input account on its own, right? It has created a journal entry. Abhishek, go ahead, please. Sorry, I didn't notice it. Yeah.
That's fine. I was going to ask you the VAT question, but I can see you've already answered it, so that's fine. So it goes directly to the VAT account there, and it tallies
Sure.
it computes the VAT. Prakash, I think, does that meet your requirements?
In fact, I was just wondering if you go a bit down. Yeah, okay, here. So what you are telling me is that you are doing a journal entry to post this particular transaction, right?
No. What I'm saying is, I'm just showing you the journal entry it created when I booked that invoice. When I booked that invoice, all I put is the total invoice amount. I selected debit expense line and I saved it and I confirmed the invoice. So when I'm looking at my
Is the
GL
journal
now,
entry in the backend which has been created for that?
correct.
All
This
right.
is the
So
journal
yeah.
entry it has created. It. If you look at the journal entry it has created, it has credited accounts payable, right?
Yeah.
It has debited the expense line for this particular line. It has automatically taken the VAT input
Yes.
amount,
The first two
right?
lines are okay, but one question about the third line for the accounts payable local.
Mm-hmm.
For this particular transaction, it is, let's say, AW1. It's related to that account of the supplier,
Mm-hmm.
but only the GL is showing. But there's no way where we can see to which account it has been assigned, for example, the supplier account.
Correct. If you see it as part of this particular transaction, it's showing us a journal, it's showing us a supplier, it's showing us the invoice number, and it's got this. This is what eventually will go into the trial balance. You can also look at the invoice lines as well. You can see why it is and what's the description and what's the quantity and the line it has brought up.
Yeah.
Right?
Good.
So that is what it does in a very simplistic case. Now, let's make this a little bit more difficult, right? And what we will do is I will open let's go to our purchase app and we'll quickly create rapidly a purchase order so that we're able to match it correctly and do things correctly, right? So I will open a purchase order now. Let's close these windows so that we're not confused, right? Okay, so I'm going to go to a purchase order and I'll create a purchase order very quickly. I'm going to bypass all those RFQ and all those things, and I'm going to create a purchase order directly, just in the interest of time. So what I'll do is I'll go create a new purchase order. I have a few things that are set up on the Excel sheet, I think, just so that we're efficient here. I'm just going to look up some suppliers of some customers. Let's say we're going to work with AC Hardware, and I'm going to pick up one of these few items. Let's say we're going to select now AC Hardware. Let's say I'll select AC Hardware Limited. Then I will say, okay, order deadline was somewhere around 14th. They're expected to deliver here if you have a vendor agreement and all that. And I will say, come to add product. And let's see what else products that we're picking up. Let's pick up some item. Let's say RM0002, right? RM0002. Okay, I'm going to pick up aloe vera. I'm going to pick up, well, let's say 1,250. Yeah.
Is it possible to lock any in the product description? They have to select from the list instead of ad hoc description so that the allocation is done properly. Is that possible to
Yes,
disable
we
ad
can
hoc
lock the,
description?
in any case, right? Once they pick up a certain item, the product in term is linked to all the accounting side of it that they cannot change in any case. That's already locked. Of
Yeah.
course, it gives us the flexibility that we can type text and issue purchase orders with some ad hoc items as well. But anyway, when it comes to the item, it's kind of linked up because I think I'm using your account by mistake, right? So it's showing that yeah.
Now, what I'm trying to ask is, instead of adding for ad hoc or allowing ad hoc expenses to be or descriptions to be put, can we disable that? So then they have to pick up from the list there, and then only items on the list that they can select. So then
Yes,
the
you can
allocation
lock.
properly, there's no misallocation of the accounts, actually from the VAT and expense perspective.
Correct. What you will do is in the security, you will say prevent creation of new items, right? When you say create provision of new items, it's kind of locked down. What it means, however, is that prior hand, we should have created these every item that they need, even for expenses and things like that, and created it and pre-coded it and kept it, right? And then people can simply search them and pick them up only and go forward, right? And that's what you can do. So once I pick up this particular item, let's say it automatically brings up some price of 1250 and 6.97. I'm just going to note this down in this particular in an Excel spreadsheet, so it's easier. 1250. Quantity is let's quantity is 1250 6.97 rupees RM 0002. And I think our supplier here is that our supplier is AC Hardware, right? AC Hardware, okay. And I think that it gives us a PO number, it gives us a PO 21, okay, and then this should be equal to this into this, okay, and then if we take these three, yeah, this should be the total value 10,019. This is nothing but VAT that I've applied here. So let's see if it matches, right? Yeah, 10,019.38. So it's got a purchase order. You've got this value and so on. So let's simply confirm this particular purchase order now. Purchase order confirmed is 21. Now, of course, I'm just going through very quickly all the steps so that when we're looking at the accounting function of it. Sorry, Abhishek, you had a question. Yeah.
In this case here, you selected, and I mean, okay, you would know that, but if we select an item that is an imported item and we need to put the price in USD, how do we go about changing that price or the item price?
What it will happen is, right, I will show the next example that I'm going to pick up. I'm going to pick up the next example as a foreign currency one, and I'll show you the currency translations because that's what we must be on top of, right?
Exactly.
When it comes to accounting. Yeah.
The next question would be is, if you allocate, I'd say look at this product here. This product is imported under USD. Now, can you generate, or does the system allow you to generate the purchase order in rupees? Or it's locked to the basic or
It
base
is
price
locked to the
like
particular vendor, right? In the vendor master also, you can actually go and say this vendor supplies only these items. So what happens is when which we have not done here, we've just kept it blank. So when I select that particular vendor on top here, the items that are actually eligible for drop down is limited to what the vendor supplies, so that you're not sitting and searching all these items all the time. That also you can do. And then based on that vendor master, it will default the currency and it will apply the exchange rates and all that, which we will do in the next iteration of the various combinations.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
So now in this particular case, we have the vendor. So this has been received. So all in one step, I'm going to do everything in the same steps. I'm going to receive all these items and material has been received. So I've got all this inventory in place. So when I look at, did I say validate? I think I did say validate. Okay. I'm going to say print. So when I look at the printout, it's actually giving me a GRN printout as well. You're still able to see my screen? Sorry. Okay. You're still able to see my screen, right? It must be showing you a purchase order. Sorry, a GRN, right? You have a GRN.
Good question. Here you did a receipt on the purchase order cycle or this purchase order app. Wouldn't that receipt be done in the inventory map where the storekeeper is receiving the inventory?
Correct. In the storekeeper, right? I'm doing everything in the same screen so that just for time, in the interest of time.
So if the storekeeper, I mean, okay, this is one way of, I mean, the question would be, how many ways are there to receive stock? And is it only limited to receiving stock on the purchasing app, or you can do receiving on the inventory app as well?
You can, in the inventory app, what would happen is, right? Let me try to show that as well. So let's copy this. I'll open a new window so that we're not mixed up between the screens. So in this case, I'm going to go out of this and I'm going to go into inventory. Yeah? I'm going to over the inventory app. What would happen is he will get it like this, right? You see this receipt to receive. He doesn't have to go through that, do receive and all that. He'll simply come here. He'll click, oh, I got something to receive here. Okay, good, right? He's gonna pick up to receive. He's got the same item, right? He's gonna click on validate. He receives that, right? After that, what happens? It's all the same. It just navigates the same thing. So if you're in the inventory app, because these guys have got access to inventory, they will always see it on the default dashboard of the items that they're expected to do. They don't have to go in search of this. If there's something that's waiting for them to do, it'll appear in their dashboards. And that's how it would work. So in this particular case, I have received the inventory now, and if I say print it, it'll give me the GR and printout as well. So I'm kind of done. Now what we will do is we'll go back to our accounting case, right? I'll go back to accounting. Okay, let's go back to, we can go here only. So I'll go back to my accounting app. Now I'll say I'm booking a bill, right? And I'm booking a bill against AC Hardware, right? That's the guy that I had, I think, right? Was it AC Hardware? No, see.
Just a question, can I? I can see you're receiving on the inventory app, or it's allowed, or you set it up to receive on the inventory side and on the purchase side. So once you receive on one side, does it nullify the other receive on the other, or it remains open?
It's actually the same thing. It's just showing you in multiple different places. You're calling the same thing. You're not doing anything repeatedly.
If he receives on the inventory, they see receiving on purchasing side as well.
Correct. It's the same menu function that's being invoked everywhere. Because it can happen. Imagine a case where, let's say you have a much smaller business somewhere else and you have one guy who's sitting and doing everything. So you don't have to go or log out of this app, go into that app and go into that app, and he can just be there and just do everything in the same shot, right? He can actually make a purchase order, he can receive it there, he can book an invoice there, everything can do in the same screen. That's the idea. In a larger setup, you enforce segregation of duties and you break this up into smaller pieces.
Okay. Another question. This is for physical apps. For service items, I'm guessing you're going to get into that afterwards, yes?
Correct. The next one, I'm going to get into service items as well. So I'll take you through a logical growing complexity so that many of the questions are automatically answered. Now, in this particular case, what are we doing? The first case that we saw is that we are simply booking an invoice against an expense. That's it, you book an invoice against an expense and you're done, right? In this particular case, we have a purchase order. We have to match it to the particular purchase order and to say everything is all right. So, but everything is the same. All I do is, you see this autocomplete here, right? In the autocomplete, it shows me the list of things that can be auto-populated for this particular vendor. So I know my purchase order number is 21, right? Because that's what we just now booked, right? I'm going to select you. Please pay attention into this line. You see the low line is all blank now. There's nothing here. I'm going to autocomplete, right? I'm going to select 21, right? It automatically is going to bring up the quantity that has been received against that particular account number, all right? Now, important thing is that quantity that's received, it's validating that. It's also telling you the account number, right? Because now we're on an accounting screen. It's going to tell you, look, I'm going to debit inventory received and invoice not booked account number because we are doing perpetual inventory accounting. So we say, yeah, sounds good. Okay, the invoice number matches. The guy's supplier invoice number is also 10,198. Everything looks all right. Yeah, okay, fine. We just say, okay, confirm. Right?
Sri, can we, just before you do that, can we attach the invoice on this screen here so we can scan it?
Correct. Absolutely, you can. Right? So what we will do is I will just go here. For example, the guy has given you a scanned invoice, let's say. I'm going to, let's say I have some PDF document, hopefully, right? Let's go to download somewhere. I should have plenty. Yeah, let's say I'm going to pick this up, right? And this is my document, right? I'm going to attach it. You see this particular attachment is already there, right? We have booked all these attachments and it's already kind of done, right? And it's done and you say confirm. That's it, right? This is the second method of booking an invoice, right? Now, when you look at the second method of booking an invoice, it shows you this is the vendor bill, right? It shows you the purchases now, because you booked a vendor bill, it shows you the purchase is this purchase order number 21. So therefore, you automatically have a link that this is the invoice number. It was linked against purchase order number 21, right? And you have everything else that's already auto populated. This is the second method of doing things. Yeah.
Hey, just a minute. What happens if they wrongly book or they make a mistake?
If you make a wrongly book, you can go either say credit note, or you can say reset back to draft, right?
Okay. Now, when I'm saying a mistake, like your purchase order says one price, they book it as another price.
Then if what would happen is when you purchase or when at that point of time physically when you're matching, you'll see the matches don't match, right? It won't match and you'll not be able to book it, right? When you do a three-way match of it, when you do a purchase match, it will keep telling you amount doesn't match. We will take that combination as well, right? In the next case. So in this particular case, what happens is now we're looking at the second method of doing things. First method was simply to book an invoice, right? No purchase order, no nothing. Second particular case, we're taking an invoice, we are matching it to a purchase order, and we are confirming this, right? This is the second particular type. Now, what we will do is we will take a third case. Yeah, go ahead, Prakash. Yeah.
Yes. For the supplier side, if ever there is a mistake and we are trying to canceling the bill, I don't think it should be credit note. It should be a debit note because it's for the supplier side. Maybe
Correct.
just to avoid the confusion, maybe we can change
We
that.
can potentially rename that too. I'm all the time confused between a credit note and a debit note, if you ask honestly as well.
Because
Correct.
we will
Right.
be
Yeah.
issuing the debit note for supplier to cancel the invoice, right?
Yeah. Right now. So this is the second particular case. Now what we will do is let's increase the complexity a little, right? So how can you, if it can sometimes happen that the same supplier is giving you multiple purchase orders, multiple delivery, and they give you one invoice, right? How do you manage that now, right? It can potentially happen as well. So what we'll do is now we will go to purchasing. Yeah, luckily I'm still in purchasing. So I'll go now, I'll not do a new receipt. I'll go to orders, right? I'll go to purchase orders. I'll quickly say I want to have a new purchase order. Let's pick up some other guy. Let's say AR Stancam, right? For example, I'm going to pick this particular vendor, right? Let me go to my Excel as well and maintain this so that's easier. Okay, AR Stancam. Now AR Stancam selected. Now this currency happens to be in US dollars. So, okay, let's increase some complexity here, right? Select US dollar, expected date. Let's pick up some material. I will say RM. Let's say this one, right? I'm going to select RM 0007. I'm going to say 1,200 quantity and the price is $0.31, let's say, right? And I'll say, okay, then I'll pick up another one. Let's say RM. Let's say this one, right? And we'll say another 2,400 pieces. And we know the tax doesn't apply. Now, this is the particular purchase order I'm creating. So let's note this down because the values are bigger because we're going to do some costing and things like that now. So that we will see. Abhishek, go ahead.
The packing size, is there an option to put that as well?
Yes, you can put a packing price as well. So the guy could be saying, what's the packaging quantity? We can say, okay, receiving 10 cartons, 15 cartons, one pallet, and whatever. You can do that as well.
Sizing. So it's the size, one SKU size. So 20 kilos bag or 50 kilo bag, that kind of.
Yeah, you can exactly. You can do that as well, right? Packaging quantity, and you can say the packaging as well. Absolutely can do so on the purchasing side too, right? Okay. Now, what I'll do is I'll just note this down so that it's otherwise we'll likely to get confused when you're booking the invoice. Because when you're doing in real life, you got all the paper documentation with you to check. When you're doing in testing, we can get totally confused. I'm just going to write down RM7 and RM8. Okay, I'll also note down a currency here. Okay, and I know 0.022, I think. Okay. RM7 is we have got 1,200, 400, and then here we've got 0.31, we've got 19.93, So we know that the value in rupees is this into this. Am I right? No, this into no 0.31 in the value in rupees will be this, right? The value will be rupees in this. Okay, the value in rupees will be this. So the quantity in rupees, quantity will be in dollar, will be this. No, 372 rupees. Or I could do it the other way. In rupees will be 14 into 1,200. Something like this. Let's say if this is the total. 2191, something like this should come. So then we know when we're doing it on the system, it's coming correctly, right? Okay, it's correct. 2101.090.091 in Odoo. In our Excel 012101.091. So what it tells us already, right? What it tells us already is, although I'm entering it in dollar, right? If you look at the purchase order now, the values are in dollar. From an accounting standpoint, it is calculating the total value in dollars is 48,204. Let's see that. Okay, let's copy this here. 48,204. The value in dollar is correct, right? We know earlier when we looked at the exchange rate, we had set it up as 0.22, right? When you look at it, it is 2191. Let's do this. Okay, 2191091.091. So 2191091, it is doing that. So when we know that all the time, it is looking at the current exchange rate, multiplying at the exchange rate, looks it up and shows the value in rupees here, right? So our Excel is doing the same thing, Odoo is doing the same thing. So we are thinking reasonably, we are probably all right, right? Now let's assume, right? We can increase the complexity here itself. This guy, when he gives this invoice now, he's not going to give it for this value. He is going to add another, let us say, $8,400, right? This he is going to say as freight, right? So the total value of the invoice that we're going to get from AR Starchem is going to be like this, right? This is what will happen in real life, right? Hence, I wanted to get it on Excel. If not, otherwise we're going to be totally confused around what we're entering and what we're booking and all that. So we'll get it on Excel and we'll try to see how the valuation and everything of that moves. So now what the guy will do is he's going to, now let's create this purchase order. We have got this purchase order now. Do you want to increase the complexity by creating one more purchase order at the same time and trying to do the same bill against two purchase orders? Or do you want to go a little bit step by step?
Yes, do it step by step if that's fine.
Okay, so how about if you want to increase the complexity, we can create one more purchase order and get one invoice for both the purchase orders together, right? And then the costing will be a little bit more complex too, but
definitely can we add a bit of complexity? Can we post this one and then the free we put on another order and then combine it under a single purchase order? I mean, single invoice.
we can do it either way. So let's post this, right? So now what I'm going to do is I've got the purchase order now. I'm going to confirm this particular purchase order. I know my purchase order number is 22, so that let me just store it here so that we're not confused if we don't remember. Rose PO 00022. Yeah, that's my PO number. Okay, I've got this confirmed. It is still loading. So, okay, purchase order number is created. Now I can do everything in the same screen. In the real life, the inventory guy is going to go. He's going to receive it there, but I'm simply going to do everything in the same screen now, just in the interest of time, because we've seen that. I'm going to receive products. I'm going to validate. My inventory is received. Okay, so my inventory is received and I can print a GRN against it. It will give me the same GRN copy. So everything is received against this. So when you look at this particular GRN copy, so you've got this particular GRN, you've got this particular item from the StarChem guy from India, and this is the value he's giving. Okay. Now let's go back to this. So let's go back to accounting now. Now accounting, you're getting a new invoice. Now you're getting a new invoice against this fellow StarChem, right? AR StarChem. Okay. The StarChem is saying now what we can do is, if you look at it now, I'll go and say bill number, supplier invoice number, T, whatever, 495, some number they're giving us, right? Now it automatically shows us, right, that we've got some invoice that we can match it to. Oh, purchase number 22. So physically, when you're looking at it, how are you going to do it, right? You already have this backup here. You're already looking at a purchase order, 48,204. Is that the value that we have got? Let's see in Excel, right? Let's see in Excel. Sorry if I'm a little disoriented. I've got this multiple screens coming up. I'm wondering which screen is showing up where, right? So, no.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Right. So, yeah. Okay. Now, okay. Now we can see 48,204. So far it is good, right? This is 48,204. So now we're looking at 48,204. Seems to be the right one. So I'm just going to select this purchase order number 22. Everything matches. Now, if you see what's happening on the screen below, it has automatically bought those two items saying on your purchase order. Now, let's assume multiple scenarios here. Multiple scenarios could be that you're in the purchase order, right? You have made a third item called as freight and issued it in the purchase order upfront for 6,400 or whatever that number is. Or it can happen that you're saying, guys, it's all X works, and they're saying, look, guys, we don't know the freight. Here is actual freight against it. This is supporting invoice as well. They're adding a third line item against that particular invoice, against freight. It can happen like that as well, right? If such a thing happens.
Can I just stop you there? Say if we've sent a purchase order and then we get the freight before shipment at a later date, do we need to modify the purchase order to be able to do the receipt?
Not necessarily, right?
Yes,
Not necessarily. You can directly book it and match it as well, but it's more of your policy and controls to say, look, all the time I will go and amend the purchase order, I'll reissue the purchase order and things like that. We can do so, but it's not necessary to do so, right? You will be able to match it and cost it and do everything correctly, right? And so on, so that you're not increasing admin work. It depends upon what's your perception of control and so on. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say, you see this now, although I have added these items here, my cursor is still in going back and sitting in autocomplete, right? When I click on the reason why it does it is I can go on repeatedly adding items here, right? I can keep on repeating adding several purchase orders here. If the guy gives you one invoice across several purchase orders and several GRNs, you can keep on adding them to it, right? So that you are able to book one invoice against several POs and several receipts. That's the logic and that's the functionality. Now we'll go and say, look, we want to, there's another line in his invoice. So what's that line, man? It's called freight. So I've created this item called as landed cost freight. So we'll say, okay, landed cost freight is received. Okay, we will say how much is the value? Well, quantity is 1. We will say the freight in dollar, as per their invoices, they are charging us $8,400, right? So we'll say, okay, the freight is, we don't have VAT and all this. So I'm going to remove this, right? 56,404 becomes the value of the invoice, right? Well, I'm checking, I'm adding this item. Okay, it adds up to 56,604. Yes, it adds up to 56,604. Okay, dollar value, everything seems to be all right. So I kind of say confirm. The moment I'm trying to say confirm, now if you look at it on the top of the screen, there is some new thing that's turned up on the screen. There's some new thing that's turned up called as create landed cost, which is not there before, right? When that button is turned up, because the reason it turns up is when we create, I'll hold the screen here. I'll show you another screen. So it is very important for you to understand this. Now, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to products. Okay. In the products now, I'm going to select now, else I'm going to select this item. That is freight, landed cost freight. You see in the landed cost freight, I hope I remember where is this. I think it's in, yeah. When you say the moment it is number one thing okay, before that, right? Here you see I'm not adding this item as a good, it is added as a service, right? The reason I brought this up is it also starts to answer you the other questions that you might have. That if you want to create on the purchase order a lot of expense lines as non-inventory carrying codes so that you can avoid typing descriptions and things like that, you can do so. By can having them created as service items and you can tag them to whatever expense account and income account and it automatically takes care of it, right? And the rest of the process is the same. The moment, however, right, you're calling it as a service, you have an option to say, is this landed cost? Is it a landed cost item or is this a service item like electricity, water, bills, stationery, whatever, right? You will say, like, yes, it is a landed cost. The moment it's a landed cost, I think we spoke about it the other day, is it will ask you, look, it's a landed cost item. Then, if you're booking landed costs, how do you want to distribute this landed cost? You can say freight is always distributed by current cost or by quantity, weight, volume, or equally. Equally in my world doesn't make much sense, so we will go by current cost is a much better method than equally, right? Current cost means take total, just distributed pro rata across if there are multiple items in the purchase or distributed pro rata, right? If you say equal, just distributed equally, right? If there are 5 items divided by 5, that's it, right? Current cost means divide pro rata. Or pro rata by quantity, volume, and weight, and so on and so on. We'll say go by cost, not by quantity, right? Because some items are low value, some items high value. We'll just go by cost. It seems to be the most equitable. And then we'll say control policy is what? It's always on order items. Will only be based on received items. Yes. And that's it, right? And we just going to, this is the item that I wanted to show you. So let's switch back to where we were, right? Let's switch back to where we were. Now we were in bill, right? So once I've got this, I can go up and say create landed costs. When I say create landed costs, right, keep in mind these buttons that you see on the top, right? You see there are new buttons on the top that comes up as purchase matching, also purchase order number, and all this are coming up because now it is taking me through a process where I'm matching it to a purchase order. These buttons didn't exist when I was booking the first example of the invoice. Neither was the second. Why did it turn up on the third time now? It's because I'm adding a new line to that invoice that was not there in the purchase order. So therefore, it turns up to say, okay, man, you better match all those things, right? Now it is saying, okay, we are creating a landed cost invoice of 2025-004. Okay, it's saying it's freight. And what are you adding it on, man? And it's saying 381,888. It's bringing some number like this. So what is this 381,818.18? Let's note this number down, 381,818.18. Okay. Most likely, I'm guessing this will be nothing but the value in rupees, is my guess, right? So let's check this out, okay? So we'll say this, it should be divided by, correct. The number is correct, you see? So what it is doing is, it is taking that particular value that divided as 8,400, it multiplies against today's exchange rate and brings up saying you got $381,000 to allocate. Now, what are you going to allocate it on? How are you going to allocate this, right? You can go up and say, I'm going to allocate it against my transfer. Now, what's my transfer, right? My transfer is, if you remember, is I think it's number 21, right? This is the warehouse number 21. So this is what it was. I'm going to go back to this. Now, yeah, I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to search. And I'm going to say, hopefully there's a 21 somewhere, right? Yeah, 21. Okay. This is talking. So this is what I want to validate against. Okay, I'm going to say validate it for me. And then, okay, it's saying, let's say, let's look at it. If I click on my button called as valuation, right? If you look at it, what it has taken is, it has taken the total value of 381,818, distributed it across in some value. based on those two items, right? That 381, here, right, is distributed across between 378 and 2948. 378 and 2948, why? Right, because that's the proportionate value of this and this. So if you look at it, if you take 372 divided by this as a percentage, it's 0.007%, right? That's the percentage. So most likely, if I say now this into this into 100, I would think, I hope I'm doing it right. It's 294,656.8, right? So yeah, it's 294,567.68, right? That's the, I don't think I have to multiply it by 100. So that's the mistake I'm doing. Yeah, right? 2946.58, right? 2946.57, right? 2946 funds. You see that now it is automatically pro rata calculating this and apportioning it on this particular item and doing all the stuff for us. So what it has done in this particular example, I've taken freight. It has taken and distributed by the number of items in the purchase order based on the current cost and already automatically added that particular freight to the value of acetate dusk and acetate day limit. That's what it has done. In a way or another, if you imagine in your sheet that I remember going through a little earlier, which is your landed cost sheet, that's what you're doing in a landed cost sheet, right? It's sitting and adding up all those things. It's automatically taking care of that. So you don't need all the sheets. So you can things do online. Everybody can be online and you can get rid of that. So where were we, right? Yeah. So we were back to this, right? So this is kind of validated it. So we're looking all right. So you see this, it is still showing us draft bill. Now, if you look at it on top, it's looking at the purchase matching. We are doing purchase matching. Then we match it to a purchase order. So this is how you understand the screen. On the top, I added a new item called as LC freight, all right, which is not in the purchase order. So therefore, it brought up the screen called as purchase matching because I introduced something that's not in my PO. Then, okay, you match it to a purchase order. It's showing a purchase order. Then we said, okay, we went through a logical process of landed costs. When you click on it, it takes you through all these details. Okay, landed cost item was this. This was the transaction against which landed cost was made, right? I go back to this, right? You always remember when I'm clicking on this here, see it's showing you as draft bill, which means I've not posted it. I'm still in the process of posting and checking everything and doing all the stuff, right? So I'm going back as this. Everything is looking confirmed. You see this draft here on the right hand, right? It is matching up with this draft. You see, it's not unposted yet. It is yet to be confirmed. Now I'm looking at physically, I'm looking at my vendor bill. Okay, man, everything looks all right. I mean, it looks, I'm talking a lot now. That's because we are walking through the concept, right? If not, you'll just look at the value, press value, confirm, and that is it, right? You're kind of going ahead. It is taking care of all this. Now we'll do all this. Okay, guys, everything looks all right. I'm going to say confirm, right? Okay, what it is telling is, guys, you haven't booked the invoice date, man, on the invoice. So I said, okay, man, I forgot. Sorry, we're going to put an invoice date now, right? And we put an invoice date and we say we're going to confirm, right? And now, done, right? Everything is done. Everything is taken care of, hopefully, and the invoice is done. Everything is booked. The status changes to posted. Everything is taken care of, right? Now, what we can do is we can look at some accounting here. Now, when we look at accounting, right, I can actually, I did it in the circuitous way last time. There's a much more simpler method to do it. Sorry, Abhishek, you had a question.
When you say your landed costs, what can you have to do it before you post the invoice, or you can do it after posting the bill?
You can do it in any sequence, doesn't matter.
So you can post the bill and then afterwards come in and tag the landed cost.
Absolutely. Because in the real world, that's how it will happen, right? A freight forwarder is not going to give you the invoice at the same time. He's going to give it a little later. Sometimes you're going to come early because you're clearing customs duty first, right? And then the item comes in and all this. It can come in early. So you can also have that you're actually booking the custom invoice. It's parked in an item, right? Later on, the material comes in. You'll retrieve the same invoice and allocate it to actual consignment so that the costing can happen. Any sequence doesn't matter, right? You'll be able to do so. So when you do this now, let's look at accounting. This is where I think it's a little different from how it's happening today. I don't recollect this particular line in terms of how you're accounting today. Now on the invoice now, if you look at the invoice lines you have here, you can actually, instead of, I did it the wrong way, maybe a more circuitous way last time. Everything is available here. When you click on the journal items, you will see the entries, right? You will see the entries that it is crediting accounts payable foreign, not local, because it's an US dollar invoice. However, it has taken to whatever 2 crore, is it 2 crore 572 lakhs 909 something, right? Now, where is this number coming up from? So let's do this. This one, I'm guessing, must be the same value. Let's apply this value in the Excel sheet and put this total. So hopefully it will be the same number. All right. Let's see. 2 crore. So let's put a comma separator. 2 crore 572. In Mauritius as well, you use crores, do you? Is that how you call it in Mauritius?
We use only millions.
In million. You use millions, is it?
Yeah. Millions.
Okay, so it's good, right? Nowadays I'm not used to this crores thing. I'm a little confused. I thought you're probably using the crore, and I was trying to get to the crores, right? Yeah. So it's showing 2,800,572,909 rupees, right? So that's what the value is matching. So now we know how it is adding up to this. So now we know when you look at the Excel sheet, let's just talk conceptually, and we will compare if Odoo is doing the same thing. Then we kind of know the next time we don't have to do this. It's everything is tying up. So because this is the total value of the invoice, it should be creating accounts payable here, right? Credit AP. Now, what should we be debiting here? What we should be debiting is, we will debit something called as
Purchase.
invoice booked and inventory not received, something like that, right? And why are we doing this? This is the most fundamental thing to be clear about, right? Because keep in mind, I did it very theoretically, right? I did everything at the same moment. We booked the invoice, we booked the GR, and we booked everything at the same time, and we did everything right now at the same moment. In reality, that's not going to happen like that, right? You will get an invoice first, right? The goods will come later, or the goods will come first, invoice will come later, right? All those things will happen. But we still want to be online at any point of time. At any point of time, we want to look at an inventory subledger. It needs to reflect what's in my books. My trial balance should always be correct. Everything should be matching at any point of time. So what we do is we do perpetual inventory here. So whenever we book the invoice, we want it to debit credit accounts payable. And of course, all this as I will call it as, I'll make it shorter just here for debit. Goods receipt, INR, invoice, not receipt, for example, right? Just to make it easier for now, right? This is what we wanted to do. The reason is my trial balance is going to match. Credit accounts payable, debit this. Sorry, Abhishek, you had a question? Yeah.
My question is on the rate side, when you're receiving the invoice, you're receiving it as a USD invoice, correct?
Correct.
And then at the later stage, when you're going to go through a custom process, you're going to get the exchange rate to convert, or at least the way we do it is we convert it at the exchange rate we pay our taxes on. So that's the rate we would use to convert it into rupees and receive it in our stock. But that's done at the later stage. So then how would you change the value of just that specific invoice and not use a generic rate on the system? Is that possible just for that invoice to have?
Absolutely. You don't have to do anything. What it will do is, anyway, customs invoice is always in rupees, so there's no exchange rate. It's one-to-one done, right? Now, what it will do is when you're applying that on this particular GR, right?
When I'm saying the value of the invoice, say here you put it 30, say it's, in this case, it's $5,000 or $56,000. You've applied that to have it as 2.5 million. You've applied the rate on Odoo.
Correct.
What happens if we don't want to use that rate? We want to use a specific rate that we have got specifically for that item. How would we go from the customs? So when we pass a bill, there's an exchange rate there because the customs converts the dollars into rupees. So that's the rate we use to account for the costing of the product because we're paying everything at that rate.
It's a good question, right? So apply. It's a good question. See, my knowledge on Odoo is kind of still deficient, right? So I have to make those, and I will come back to you. It's a good question. There must be a place where you have to apply the exchange rate as well, because it's an exchange rate that you want to apply on the invoice. I will come back to you. Hopefully, I can spot it on the screen. Maybe you can spot it as well in terms of where it is and so on. But yeah, I will come back to you on how to apply a specific rate on the invoice.
Okay.
But here on the concept here, what will happen is it will debit these accounts. So the important thing to understand, the reason why it's doing that as well is, if you look at it, it's doing the same thing. It's debiting a liability account, right? It's creating a liability. So what you're doing is you're creating your accounts payable and debiting liability. Important thing is freight, right? Even freight is going into inventory account, right? That's the reason what we're doing, therefore, is that we are capitalizing all freight expenses into a balance sheet. Now, therefore, logical thinking is when we did the GRN, what should it have done? It should have done, therefore, when we did the GRN, it should have debited here. It should be, okay, whatever, right? So I'll change it here only, right? It should be debit inventory for the same value, right? When you did the GRN. And this should also be credit to the same account as well. So what will happen when you do so is your goods received not invoice account balance will become zero, right? The net entry that you're getting is credit to accounts payable and debit to inventory for the same value. That is how you ensure that the subledger is all the time up, your GL is all the time up, your accounts payable is all the time up, and everybody is current as long as you're making the entries on time, right? So this is what we'll verify. Sorry, go
So
ahead, Prakash.
basically, the good good inventory
Inventory receipt and in bill not booked, something,
that
right? I
account
couldn't find a better
is
word. Yeah,
acting as a suspense account just for
exactly.
contra entry purpose.
Exactly. It is nothing but a contra account, right?
And it means that, just to clarify the understanding, it means that when the purchase order is being raised, it's only at the moment when we receive the goods and the invoice that it is being recognized in our inventory.
Exactly. When a purchase order is being raised, nothing really happens, right?
Okay, it
Nothing
doesn't
really
touch to
happens.
the
You kind of
GL
know the
account.
correct, right? Nothing really happens. You kind of know expected commitment. It just come expected commitment. Nothing is really booked as debit and credit. At the point of goods receipt, right? The moment you book goods receipt, it will debit inventory and credit inventory not received. In this particular case, account number 25010. Inventory being an asset account, therefore your inventory receipt and invoice not booked account is a liability account. So therefore in your balance sheet, right, you have an asset and you have a liability, and that kind of matches up, right? And that's how it works. Now let's verify this. Let's verify this is what is happening. So what you do to verify this is that, and okay, this is a supplier invoice, everything is done, right? Everything is taken care of. See, because I've done a three-way match, it automatically brings up a value called as checked. Yes, it's been verified. Okay, now let's go back to accounting and look at journal entries. Hopefully everything works correctly, right? Abhishek, go ahead.
Can you see that on USD says as 1 rupee to the USD? Can you click on that to change the exchange rate?
Yeah, that's the one. Correct. I think that was the field I was looking for. I couldn't spot it. When we book a new invoice, I think we will check it out. I think I've already posted it. I can't edit it, right? Now, what we will do is, let's look at this.
But
I'm
you
looking at the.
you posted it, you can't edit it. So what happens if they have to edit it after data stage?
You can go back and just edit as, you can go back and reset it as draft. Then what it will do is it'll unpost it, reverse it in the GL and keep it fine, right? I will walk you through that particular cycle.
Even if they've already expanded or at least used the product, they can reverse that.
Correct. It will reverse that and recost it once again, right? For you. Now, let's look at this particular entries. Keep in mind, we have to look at the stock journals correctly, which is the AR StarChem is the vendor. We also know, hopefully I've still kept that open somewhere, right? If not, we will try to figure it out. Okay. Okay, we will try to figure it out. We know your invoice number is 21, right? Oh. Now AR StarChem. This is a stock journal entry that we have received. Okay, we can check it out also from the value 16,609, is it? Okay. 16,609. Okay, this number is correct. 16,609 and 2147. I'll just put some comma separators. Easy for us to check. Okay, 16,909 and 2174. This is the value of inventory. 16,909 2174. Let's see the accounting entry, right? For what this is. Now here it is. Warehouse number 21 is also there, right? If you look at what has happened here, you have got a debit to inventory raw material, right? And a credit to inventory not received, invoice not booked for this value. Let's go back to this again. Now, accounting, journal entries. Let's look at the other one. All right. Here as well, the same thing. Debit to inventory, credit to value 16909. The reason I put it on a spreadsheet is it's easier for us to verify. If not, you simply have to trust what I'm saying because there's so many numbers we wouldn't remember in any case, right? Hence, I put it on a spreadsheet so that we're able to match it. So these two numbers are good, right? So far, okay, these two numbers are good. Let's say we go green, okay? So total is anyway total. So freight, okay, let's go here. Let's look at what this freight value is, okay? Now let's go back to freight here. Let's look at accounting. Let's look at journal entries. I think this was the number, I think, was it this one? 2025-004, I think this is the one. Yeah. 381,818, right? How do you know the number? Well, let's look at this number. 381,818, right? This is the number, okay? That we're looking at. 381,818. Now, if you look at the miracle of what has happened is it has debited raw material inventory to the extent of 2946.57 and 378. Why 2946.57 and 378? Is look at the Excel sheet. Where is the value of 2946? Yeah, here's the value 2946.578, right? This is the one value here. There is okay. Now, if you take 2946, this minus this should match up to this, I hope. 378,871 point this. Let's look at this. Yeah, 378,871.16. Okay. So now if you look at this, it is matching this up. So what has happened in this case is you have capitalized your freight and your inventory is costed and live online, right? So your cost of inventory per item has gone up to the extent of this value. We will check that in a few minutes. And your liability or your contra account in your words, Prakash, has become zero. If you look at this, this is the credit it has got. So this becomes zero as well, right? So your contra accounts have become nullified. You got the net entry of debit inventory and credit this. So everything is looking hunky-dory, right? At this time. So this is what we mean by how costing is done. Even if it's the same thing, doesn't matter. Actually, we just took a shortcut and we did it for foreign currency as well. So local currency applies the same thing. Foreign currency and local currency, it applies the same thing. In the accounting journal entries, you will see that it is maintaining different references. Wherever, when you're posting into the GL, it is posted against the GRN, right? It will show you against the warehouse is the GRN number against which the entry is getting posted. Where you're creating it as a landed cost entry, it will show you a prefix as to what is the landed cost entry number that's creating with. So therefore, when you're reconciling, you kind of know if an auditor turns up and says, what is this entry, man? Then we can say, yeah, this is the entry. It goes and we can match it up to everything, right? It will show you against which invoice it has been booked and so on, right? If you look at the journal entries as well, wherever it has a prefix as STJ, it came from stock journal, right? That's where the entries are coming from. Wherever it came from accounts payable, it came from supplier invoices, as a vendor invoices, right? And yesterday you would have some, whether it saves as a S invoice, which is a sales invoice, right? And it's a point of sale and so on and so on. So therefore, you're able to identify the transactions, where it came from, how it got created, how it updated to the GL, and so on and so on, right? So this is how you verify accounting entries based on supplier invoices. Now, I'm curious to say how this is going to work. So I'm going to try out asking Abhishek as well to your point. So because I never it never occurred to me to be honest. So but we'll try it out now. So far clear on the accounting entries and the costing and everything else. Abhishek, Prakash, Jigna, Shreya, right?
I think we're good. We just have to probably
Okay.
practice it a bit more to understand it, I guess, because right now
Correct.
it's just
Correct.
all very new.
Correct. Anyway, we have the recording, so it's fairly quite simple. Once you get a handle of the screens, how it is working, to be honest, I kind of struggled a little bit for like day or two. But once you start to see how it's kind of moving around, then it's kind of fairly simple. Now, also notice that when you have a slash against any particular invoice number, which means it's set in draft mode. It has not allocated a number, it's sitting somewhere here, right? In this case, you have not done anything. So it says created by Abhishek Chakori and sitting there, right? And so on. It's still sitting in draft mode. Nothing has been entered. So it's just screen mode. You can say just cancel and ignore it, right? All right. So you can say action, delete. Okay, it's gone. All right. So now let's go back and try this. I'm really curious how this is going to work. Who's our friend? Is it StarCam? Is this? Now, I will check this out. This is exactly what you mean, right? You should be able to amend this particular exchange rate here, right? We don't want to apply 0.22, we want to apply 0.215 or something like this, right? What you have got secured from the bank against this particular invoice, what the vendor is giving. That's what you want to be able to check it, right? I will figure this out, Abhishek. I don't know why it doesn't allow. I think it's just logical that it should allow you to change this. Uh, and maybe because I'm just not doing something right. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Okay.
Always, you've got to put in new rates on the system. Then when you click next on the next screen, put in new rates. Probably that's not.
Some not sounding logical. I think it should let you change it. I will figure this out, Abhishek. I will get back to you once I know why it is not doing so. It should let you do, I think, right? Yeah. It's not logical as to why it wouldn't allow us to change the exchange rate, but I'll find that out. Maybe there's some setting around that, right? I've taken that particular note. It's just logical that it has to do it, I think. I mean, it has to default it to the current rate, but we should be able to change it. If there's any difference, it should take you to gain or loss, right? Now, this is the process about how we are booking simple invoices, right? Against we booked a simple invoice. We can also let's do the other thing that you wanted is let's go to products and we can create, let's say, let's pick up some of the products. Let's say we want to create it only on purchase. We don't want it on point of sale. We want it as a service, right? And let's say travel bills. That's it. For example, I'm just saying travel bills as an example. I don't remember if our chart of accounts is exactly structured like that. You could go up and say, look, it's a service. And we will say it doesn't matter, it's all expenses, right? And we'll say go to attributes accounting, doesn't matter. You can also say travel expenses. If you're already all the time getting it from a few vendors only, you can add those vendors as well. So whenever you're booking an invoice against a particular vendor, only these lines will turn up. So we're not getting everything up, right? So that's fairly well controlled that way. And then you go to your accounting side of it and you can say, okay, this is what, let's say, if we've got travel, right? Okay, I've got travel and accommodation cost. And I'm going to say, save it, save, right? Now, let's say we're going to put a bill. Is this a part of your vendor list?
Doesn't look like it, but
Because I have a feeling it's going and looking up the internet and bringing it. That's the reason I asked you, right? I think
doesn't look
because
like
only
ours.
the capital ones are yours, I kind of have a feeling it's looking up on the internet and bringing it on its own, I think, right?
It's bringing it out. None of them are ours.
Loyal, even this one, Wake Holiday is yours, no?
None of them are ours.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It's got a search worldwide button as well. Well, that's pretty cool, I thought. Okay, right? So it seems to have some functionality like this. It sounds like a little cool. That you don't have to sit and just call up and negotiate and bid on, isn't it? Something like this. Okay. Oh, it's saying you have not have enough credits. Okay. So we don't want to book it. Let's say we'll book it against some vendor, right? Uh, just do you know any specific vendor for travel? We'll just pick up someone. Okay, let's say Access Cargo. Okay. I'm going to pull it against Access Cargo. Here I'm going to come against product lines. You see, this is what happens. The moment I select travel bills, I automatically books my expense line to the account number that I've selected. Now I can add a section and I can add a note saying this is.
What's a section mean street? Is there like a separation? Is it?
Yeah, it's just like a separation. You want the PO to look good and you want all the items and here are the services and you want it to kind of have clear demarcators so it's not mixed up and all.
Okay.
Something like this. Yeah, and you say, of course, here the exchange date doesn't come up because it's related to the same vendor, right? And then you say, as per the payment terms, 45. Okay.
Talking about exchange rate, can you have a vendor at one point in time is in rupees, but that same vendor can invoice in dollars as well? Or you
It
got
can happen. No, if you have that, there's no need for separate vendors. The fact that he's allowing you to change it here, I'm able to change it here, right? So, so the guy gives you a vendor invoice, you can do it. You don't need to create multiple vendors and things like that, right? And the moment bill refunded, okay, man, fine, right? The bill invoice is there, okay. We'll say, okay, invoice does and confirm, right? Oh, I clicked on paid, is it? Okay. Okay, so this is how you book. This is the process of booking. Management of vendors, essentially booking. We have gone to simple vendor invoices, vendors with this. I'll also show you another thing which I think is really, really cool of how this does it. I hope we have it, right? No, I'm a little confused, so please forgive me if I'm a little disoriented on this. Okay, let's go this. Reference. No. Here, sorry. Those are you could also potentially go to upload bills. Okay. You could upload bills. Let's pick something. Where should I pick something? No. I remember, Shreya, I was looking for, you had sent me long ago some actual supplier invoices, something that we could actually use it there. Okay, let's do this. Just a second. This might be something interesting, if not now, but very quickly. So I need to go to Teams. Or maybe I'll just show the concept so that we're not wasting time, okay? The essential concept is, I'm going to pick some document now. You're still able to see my screens, right? Now I'm going to pick some PDF, right? I know the PDF is wrong, right? Or let me see if I have something here. Okay, I've got something here, okay? I'm going to select this, okay? If you have credits and things like that, okay, right, you don't have enough credit to extract data and so on, it asks for a very small amount and we can do this. You can apply OCR and automatically do it. Retry. Or maybe we'll check this out, right? Okay, I'll defer this. What I'll show it to you in another instance or somewhere, right? Is that you can simply scan as the next improvement, Abhishek. The idea is that here I'm booking all these invoices manually, right? Then now once you've settled down, the logical progression is you can do a couple of things. We simply say, okay, people send me all their invoices to me by PDF. I'm not going to manually do it. I'm simply going to click on upload and it will scan this particular invoice. It will automatically figure out what that expense line is. It will automatically code that. That's one logical step up. You could go even one step further to sell all your suppliers. Guys, you have to submit all your invoices to something called as suppliers@mopirove.com. And you have to send it by PDF, image, whatever they want to send. When they send it to that particular email, you can configure Odoo to read that particular inbox of that particular email. Whenever an invoice has come, it will auto scan it, it will auto upload it and keep it everything ready for you. You just have to go click, confirm and save, confirm, save, right? It can do a good part of your accounting part of it as well. It automatically archive that invoice against this particular transaction. You would save yourself a significant amount of time and effort as well as you go through. But that could be our next logical step that we could take. So what we have covered so far, Sheikh, Shreya, and Prakash, is we have covered invoice booking, vendor master, invoice booking, management of payment terms, management of currencies, management of costing. We have also seen posting of transactions from inventory when it relates to purchase invoices. That's what we have covered so far. Questions? Is that clear? Right? I know it's a little heavy, but this one is a little heavy. Rest of them are a little lighter, right?
It's good. We've covered imports, we've covered locals, and I just wanted to confirm because I wasn't quite sure I correctly understood it, especially on the landed costs. You said that once we post it, we can, or at least what we had said previously when we were doing the inventory side, we can add our landed costs at a later stage, and it can be added to the transfer reference or this the GRN reference instead of the invoice. Correct. But in this case here, you mentioned that when you are closing the vendor bill, you can't add more expenses to that vendor bill.
Excellent question. Let's do this now. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick an invoice. It's a good test of my understanding of Odoo as well. Good for this question. I'm going to figure out my own ability of this, right? I'm going to pick up a vendor called AC Cargo is a good example, okay? I think we were looking at this guy, AC Cargo. Let's assume he's a freight forwarder or some guy like this, okay? But remember, the reason I'm picking up AC Cargo is, remember, our original invoice is not from AC Cargo. It's from AC, some Starchem guy, right? He's the original guy, right? So we're going to say AC Cargo is going to give us, that invoice is already booked and closed and done, right? Now let's assume this is a freight forwarder or he's got some other forwarding or something like this, charges on top of it, right? We'll say, okay, ACC 19, whatever, some number, right? Now, search more, right? Let's see if we can do this. Now, we don't want us to be searching against AC Cargo, right? So what we want to do is we want to be able to do this and say we don't want only AC Cargo bills here. So we want to say purchase orders, vendor bills, right? Okay. This is not what it is. Okay, so what we will do is, okay, then now guy gives a, I'm doing a little bit of experimenting. If the experimenting goes a little bit wrong, you'll have to forgive me for wasting your time, but I will come back to you with a proper answer in an hour or so. So now he's going to say, let's say it's going to be customs duty, for example. We can pick up another item. Let's say it's going to come customs duty, and let's say it is $2,500 or something like this. It's okay. This Mauritius rupee. Let's say it is 50,000 Mauritius rupee. Okay, and there's VAT and all those things as well involved. Now what we will do is we will just say customs duty. See, the moment it has come here, it brings up create landed cost, right? Because my item is set as a landed cost item. I'm going to go create landed cost item, and it's saying against what, right? I remember my landed cost item number is 25 or something like this, right? Search more. I think it is 21, correct, right? 21 is what we had received here, right? So I'm going to go and say, this is the item against which I'm adding this guy, right? And remember, I'm adding 50,000 rupees against GRN number that's received from Starchem, right? That's a different consignment altogether. And also, while we're talking about this, you see these manufacturing orders as well, right? I'm only taking transfers. You can also apply on specific manufacturing production orders too, but we'll ignore that for the moment, right? And you can say, and let's go and click on validate, right? Configure customs stock expense account for customs duty. Okay.
I think we should allocate an account to.
Because I think I did it in a hurry, right? I didn't set this up, so let's do this right now. This information category, okay? Let's say save it. Okay, all right. The reason is because I had not selected the item. I've already pre-configured all the account numbers against raw material and so on. I had not assigned it to that particular thing. So the moment I know it, it kind of knows all the account numbers. So in this particular case, we are taking this particular expenses from a third party, which is bill, and allocating it against a different landed cost transaction, putting it against this. Let's see what happens. And then I think I did validate. So let's look at valuation. So now what it has done is it has taken 50,000 rupees, right? And apportioned it by the same value. Now let's see the value. Now it's 50,000 rupees against 385, right? Now let's go back to our, luckily we have our Excel sheet to help us now. Okay. Yeah, this is the percentage that we had, I think, as a proportion. So okay. So if you take 50,000 rupees and we say 50,000 rupees into this, it's going to be 385.86. Is that correct? Yeah, 385.86, right? So the number is correct because it is pro rata taken it. So the other value must obviously be correct. But so if you go and say, mm, it should be 49,614.14. Yeah, 49,614.14, right? So it matches up and it has taken this and we say, okay, this calculation seems to be all right. So you have done this correctly. We go back to the draft bill and we say, okay, let's confirm this. I do feel the distribution cost account number is wrong, but which I think needs to be corrected, but we'll reconfirm that, right? Let's say confirm, right?
One question here.
Go
Uh,
ahead, Prakash.
yes, regarding the landed cost. At any point in time, we can add the items as and when we receive, and it
Correct.
will keep on linking it to the purchase order.
Exactly. 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 And if you look at it, right, that is your biggest menace today in your Excel sheet, right?
Yes.
Because you never know when this is going to stop, when you're going to get, when you're going to get. Somebody has to sit and follow up and find out if everything has been received. Only then you can cost. Till then, all your costing is off, right? Your margin is off, everything is off, right?
Yeah.
So as and when you keep getting, doesn't matter. It can come. I mean, of course, it matters if the guy is going to give you after 1 year because you already spent everything off. I'm saying, but from a maintenance of that Excel sheet and things, you don't have to put things in a queue. Now, in this particular case, I do feel that my setup is wrong on the distribution cost account number here, but we will validate it. So I'm going to confirm. Okay, it says you have not put the invoice date. Okay, we got the invoice date on 15th. We got this year. Okay, now let's say reconfirm. Okay, something seems to have happened. So it says, okay, everything is good, everything is booked, and so on and so on. So let's look at journal items here. Okay. So journal item, what we are getting here in this particular case is we are getting a debit to distribution cost, and of course, debit to VAT, and a credit to accounts payable, right? Which I think is wrong. So I'll correct that. Now, when we go to our journal entry items now, right? Because we have the new landed cost item, right? Which is the 50,000 rupees. Remember, this is the invoice that we booked for 50,000 rupees, right? If you look at 50,000 rupees now, what it has done is it has taken the label as customs duty, allocating customs duty against these particular items. It has debited inventory to the extent of 50,000 rupees, credited inventory to the extent of this. Now, right, so far as okay. So where the setup is wrong, which I'll correct, I'll remember to correct. Let's open this into another window. Because you cannot credit the debit customs duty now because you're capitalizing it. We will do that correctly. We'll go to products and we'll say customs duty. I think this is where it's wrong. This is being customs duty, right? Service. I'll check this out. I'm a little confused as to where this is bringing up customs duty on receipt quantity by current cost. Distribution. I will check this out, Prakash Abhishek. I think it's probably getting it from the setup, I think. You see the mistake here, right, you see the mistake on the accounting side is the inventory is happening correctly, right? Because that's what I'm assuming you want to do. You want to be able to take the value of customs duty, add it back to the value of inventory so that our gross margins are correct, right? So what has happened is it has taken this particular cost and it has added to the value of inventory. So this is correct. Debit to inventory, credit to inventory receipt, invoice not booked. This is so far okay. Or what we should do is we should take this particular item and we should not give a credit to inventory received and invoice not booked. You should credit it to customs duty, right? Then what would happen is you can do it that either way, right? If you credit it to customs duty, then what would happen is we want in the end customs duty to get knocked off, right? Otherwise, you got an expense line sitting on customs duty, you got an offset sitting on your liability, right? Which actually should not be there. That's something that I will look at it and I'll correct it. But to answer your question, Abhishek, in this particular example, you've got invoices later from third-party vendors, right? You're able to allocate it back to the original purchase order, original GRN, and cost it as well, right? And you're able to make those cost adjustments. And you can similarly do it against manufacturer items as well. See, in this particular case, the example of the manufacturing item is, let's say you're doing something to manufacture something very urgently. It's that cost needs to go only for that particular manufacturing order. You don't want it to come into inventory and just get distributed across to everything else, right? Then what you can do is you can say, yeah, I'm adding this. I want you to add this to the specific manufacturing order. So it'll adjust the cost of that particular manufacturing order alone.
Okay, that's good.
So debit account, I'm making a note, debit account on customs duty is wrong and to be corrected. Yeah. So far on accounts payable, we're good. On invoice booking,
Yeah, we're good.
right? Although in real life, I think it's just a good idea to test it, make a few purchase orders and to rank it and so on. Then you'll get a grasp of it. So you're not confused otherwise in real life. Yeah.
If you wanted a credit note or return back to the supplier, how do we do that?
Yeah. So what we can do is you can go back to your
On the vendor side, vendors.
yeah, vendors. Sorry, I was confused. Right. So go back to the vendors. You can go pick up any particular, let's say, right? So let's pick up Sunbuy. And you can say, look, I want to issue a credit note for this particular vendor. The reason displayed on the credit note is wrongly.
And there are approvals as well at this level 3, or just because it's mine, you said that's why it's going through?
Sorry? No.
Are there approvals that can be given at this level so that?
No, actually, there's no approval configured at this particular level. Once you issue a credit note, it will create that particular credit note. And you can say reverse. Important concept is you can say reverse as a what date, reverse on a certain date. You can also say revert and create the invoice, right? And you can say, okay, reverse it and recreate this invoice and so on. In this particular case, we say reverse this particular invoice. Tax code. 31000. I don't know why it's looking at the wrong number ones. I'm just making note of it before I correct it. Why? Thanks. So, okay, let's correct this as well. Hold on a second. I'm only applying a temporary fix here, Prakash, so that we're not getting stuck. In real world, we have to figure out why it is going to this particular account number. Our account numbers are only 5-digit, not 6-digit. Obviously, it is picking up the default one. It should be. I'm just applying a temporary patch here. I'll investigate as to why it's picking this up. I'm only applying a temporary patch so that we can go ahead with this transaction. And so on. And hence, I'm doing it only in staging. Our live is still pristine. I'm not touching that. I will correct that there. So here we go. This. Okay. And when you reverse this and post it as confirmed, you see this, it's bringing up a vendor credit note here. And when you click on confirm, it will post the vendor credit note, right? It will post the vendor credit note. If you go to your journal entries, if you say this is the one reversal of wrongly booked invoices, you take the one, it will show us credit note. It's actually reversed, right?
Okay.
So this is how you manage your vendor bills, and both for purchase order, non-purchase order, expense, landed costs, right? Reversal of supplier invoices. The open items that I have got on my notes out of this session is, right? Apply of payment terms for all companies. There's a mistake there on the master data that we have to correct, but we have seen how it is to be done, right? That's how I've got that as well. Payment term to be extended.
And this for currency exchange, spot currency
Correct.
exchange.
Applying of specific exchange rate to the bill, how to apply the specific exchange rate at the point of invoice booking. And the debit account number in the customs duty is wrong. It should be corrected, right? This is the observation. These are the ones that I have. And I also noticed that why are we reversing? It's picking up some default tax account and not the VAT account that we have in our config. That's something that I will verify.
Okay. So, Sri, should we take a break now and then we come back and then we look at the AR, or?
Correct. We can take a break and we can look at AR. Of course, in AR, all the invoices will come from the subledger, so it's probably going to be faster. I mean, this is the one, I think, this is the one that we have to be clear. Costing is the most important thing. You get the costing right, rest of them is just entering and things like that in AR. But we can do an afternoon session on the AR. AR on the back.
What I'd like to see on AR is the reconciliation on the POS side of things. So how receipts that side are reconciled on the account customer
correct
side.
I would suspect, because the guys are building up the point of sale system. They have done the document now, the consolidated document for the warehouse transfer. That's already done. I think he's doing I was in the training session, so I couldn't catch up with them in the morning on what the status with point of sale is. That I think we will try to deliver it over the next couple of days, right? He says he needs around 2 or 3 days. So we'll try to deliver it. At that point of time, we'll do a rerun once again for all those areas, Abhishek, and then we will do a rerun for sales. But let's look at all the AR side today. Shall we take like how much time would you need? Shall we do 2 o'clock our time, or shall we? I can do a little later as well, allowing you some space.
2 o'clock, or would you like a little later?
Once again, please.
Prakash, I'm just asking Prakash. Prakash, would you like to get 2 o'clock, or would you like at 2:30? Because I think you've got a few jobs here and there to do.
Correct. Yeah. So that you also have some space to attend to a few other things as well. We can do a little later. We can even do 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever, right? Just let me know what works.
Let's do it at 3 o'clock, 3 to 5.
I think 3 is okay, yeah.
3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I think that's better. So that it gives them time to complete a bit of jobs there as well.
Yeah, super.
Okay. So we'll do it at 3 o'clock then, Sri. See you back at 3 then.
See you in around 2 hours from now, right?
Yeah. Thank you then.
Okay. Thank you, Prakash, Abhishek, Shreya, and Adarsh and Chandra. Bye-bye.